Now, joining me now for a little bit of levity to cut through the absurdity of everything that's going on is cartoonist from the Daily Telegraph, Warren Brown, and Spectator Australia columnist extraordinaire, Professor James Allan. Great to see you both. Let's get started with Joe Biden, who is either lying on the state of the US stock market or it's the old Joe Biden senility. You can be the judge. Have a look.
The stock market, the last guy's measure of everything, is about 20% higher than it was when my predecessor was there. It has hit record after record after record on my watch.
Stocks now down $7.6 trillion since President Biden took office.
James, don't you just love the juxtaposition there? So give us your thoughts, James.
Well, apparently the price of gasoline's gone down too. So I mean, he's close to not there upstairs. It's quite frightening to watch the guy. It's been a disaster. All those people back at the last election who voted for him because they didn't like nasty tweets are paying a very hefty cost, is all I can say.
Warren, welcome back from the UK. We spoke when you were over there test driving electric cars and so on. And we might chat about that in a second because, they're a disaster. But anyway, what did you make of poor old Joe's stock market stock take?
Well, Rowan, I really want to like him. I really do. But, once we have Glenn Robbins, the comedian, from the Comedy Company years ago, had a character called Uncle Arthur. And Uncle Arthur used to talk, hello, boys and girls. He had a slideshow. And, maybe I've had a little bit much to drink. And he's a little bit like this avuncular guy that you think, he's a lovely old chap. But really, do you want him leading, being the leader of the Western world? And that whole gloating thing about the stock market, as your nana would say, pride comes before a fall. And, I reckon if I was out there sort of boasting about this, for sure, the stock market would collapse the next day. So I think that's what's happened to him too. I feel a bit sorry for him, to be perfectly honest.
Now, we've had the news overnight about the Nord Stream gas pipeline, some mysterious explosions or not, whatever's going on. We've had some strange stories coming out of that. The suggestion being, did the Russians try and sabotage the pipeline? Did the Americans try and sabotage the pipeline? Did somebody else try and sabotage the pipeline? We don't really know what has occurred as yet, but just have a listen to this grab of Joe Biden again. Couple of years, last year before the invasion of the Ukraine. Now have a listen carefully to what he said.
If Russia invades, that means tanks or troops crossing the border of Ukraine again. Then there will be no longer a Nord Stream 2. We will bring an end to it.
How will you do that exactly? Since the project and control of the project is within Germany's control.
We will, I promise you, we'll be able to do it.
So, James, obviously Twitter is alive with, the Americans must have blown up the pipeline. I mean, one would be forgiven for drawing that conclusion, listening to that. But what's your take on it?
Well, the Americans have been so incompetent lately, and I'm a big fan of the U.S., that the idea that they could pull this off, I usually go with incompetence before I go with a conspiracy. I don't actually think that Biden is a nice guy. I actually think that if you look at his record supporting the Ku Klux Klan when he first got into the Senate, he's not a nice guy at all. He's played that card. But this is an organization that has to send 30 FBI agents to arrest a guy who doesn't like abortion clinics. I doubt very much whether the Americans would have been able to pull this off.
Warren, that's a take on that. So this is great James Bond stuff, isn't it? You can imagine someone's blown up the pipeline. Now James Bond's got to figure out who did it.
Look, I think Vladimir Putin is the greatest James Bond villain of all time. I'm surprised he doesn't live under a volcano somewhere. But we don't know. There are also stories about whether Putin's done it himself. Why? I have no idea. But that is a story. But he's such an extraordinary figure on the world stage. And I'd have thought in the 21st century we'd have lost these sort of 20th century despots, long ago. But he's there keeping that keeping the flame alive for crazy people who threaten to destroy the world. I mean, we live in scary times, that's for sure. But I'm with James in saying that I would go for incompetence rather than sort of Machiavellian plots every time, that's for sure.